a crowd, they're never tame. Mets Postgame show brings the flame.
Welcome back to the New York Mets post-game show here after an electric victory. It's time to spam those W's right here on the post-game show. It's a series win, another series win for our New York Mets. How are we feeling, chat, and how are we feeling, Zach?
Feeling good. I mean, not a ton to talk about with this game, but it's a win. It was a hard-fought win in some nasty conditions, and against a pitcher that hasn't been having the best of years, but is a good pitcher for the Pittsburgh Pirates, Mitch Keller. And he's always pitched well against the Mets, at least it seems. I know Pete Alonso specifically has some really good numbers against. So, you'd love to see the Mets have piled on some more runs, but just happy they escaped this with a W, because in these crappy rainy conditions, you never know what could happen.
Yeah, and you definitely saw the conditions playing a factor later in the game. Before we fully get into this post game, we're going to be talking about, the X's and O's, some things that, didn't particularly go the way that we had envisioned, especially with what I was talking about on the pregame stream. If you missed that, make sure you go check it out after this stream. But as always, please do hit those thumbs up buttons, subscribe to the channel for more Mets post game shows, more Mets content, videos like talking about trade targets and whatnot, like I posted today with Luis Robert Jr., all that fun stuff. And as always, please do drop those comments in the live chat. I really want to hear what you all have to say. Whether you're a Mets fan, whether you're a Pirates fan, please hit the comment section. And before we go any further, you know what we have to do. We spam those W's, baby. Let's go. It's a Mets victory. All right, so where do we begin? You mentioned it, Zach, in terms of trying to get to Mitch Keller, who was not having an impressive season to begin his season in 2025 with the 4.40 ERA coming into this ball game. But you know what? I usually talk about the starting pitching performance first from the New York Mets side of things, and we will get into Kodai Senga, another very impressive outing out of Kodai Senga, and it ended a little bit unfortunately for him, especially when Reed Garrett came into the ball game and issued a couple of walks back to back to issue that game tying run. But what I will say is that I was pleasantly surprised with how the at least bottom of the first played out, and that was a huge hit for Brandon Nimmo. And I've been saying it all along. Both hits that contributed to both RBIs in this game for the New York Mets. Guess what the common denominator was? It was hit to the opposite field from Brandon Nimmo in the gap in the first inning, and from Brett Baty over the fence to left field as left-handed batters. It was awesome to see, and don't you worry, we're going to get into Brett Baty. I promise, Zach, I see that smile on your face. We're going to get into your boy Brett Baty, because guess what? I'm starting to become convinced with Brett Baty. But just take me through that first inning, especially what has to feel like such a feel-good hit for Brandon Nimmo. A lot of people questioning him batting in the cleanup spot. He came through and delivered essentially one half of the Mets RBIs in this ball game.
Yeah, I mean, just for him to come through in that first inning, especially with how bad the Mets have been with runners in scoring position despite the record, it had to have felt good, especially in the middle of that order, because aside from the one game where he had the 9 RBIs against the Nationals, that's I think a total of 14 RBIs in the rest of the season, something like that. So this is someone who drove in most of his runs in one game. So it feels good to be able to provide, a little bit more consistently of late. And then Soto too, having him get on base and just the right read of Mitch Keller, knowing when to jump and goes. And that's the reason we were up 1-0 early. It was because of Soto getting a single, reading the pitcher, taking the extra base, and then Brandon Nimmo driving him in. And then from there, it was pretty much just a pitching duel. And it was pretty much uneventful, basically, until what was the top of the sixth. Which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, that it was just too kind of slow of a game. And even when it was 1-0, I had this feeling, especially after, the Pirates offense
Mhm.
was getting traffic on the bases back to back to back innings. And Kodai Senga just kept on stranding, all those runners. And it just kind of seems like Kodai Senga, that's been his MO so far in this season, is getting a lot of traffic on the bases, but finding that huge strikeout, that huge double play, whatever have you, and getting out of those innings. And that was especially evident from pretty much the second inning in this ball game all the way through that fifth inning. And the offense after that first inning did, take their feet off the gas pedal, so to speak. But Mitch Keller, I talked about it on the pregame stream. The strikeout rate for him has gone astronomically down. This is a guy that the Pirates in recent years have relied on as one of their main pitchers, right? Especially in this organization before Paul Skeens came onto the scene, and he just hasn't performed like a top three pitcher in a rotation so far this season. And he made a couple of hitters in this lineup like look foolish. Lindor was completely overmatched by him. Pete Alonso did not have great at bats at all against Mitch Keller. Looked like he was also a little bit overwhelmed. So, it was a really impressive performance by Mitch Keller, but the Mets find a way. I don't know how they do it. I'm happy and I'm sure that we're all glad that they do it, especially against a Pirates team that we should be taking a series from. We should be sweeping a series from, right? From the get-go. We said that. But it's good that they found a way to win.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about Kodai Senga? Let's talk about Kodai Senga
Yeah,
real quick before we get back into the offense. Let's just take a look at the box score from this afternoon / this evening, and it's actually crazy. Kodai Senga goes 5 2/3 innings. While he was in the game, he gave up 0 earned runs. He got into some trouble there in that last inning, in that sixth inning, and that was partially due to an unusual play. And I will say, Mark Vientos did not have his best game at third base. A couple of balls that were definitely hit on the nose towards him and his way that I think that he should have definitely caught. One early in the game that went off his chest. He kind of slid. He was playing out of position. They had him shifted. It was a tough play, but he didn't make contact. The ball did not make contact with his glove on that particular play. No big deal. Okay, bounce back, regroup. But the play that basically ended the night of Kodai Senga was one that you definitely need. And guess what? The ball found the mitt. It's just that Mark Vientes's glove just happened to be, I guess, loose in terms of the webbing, and the
Yeah.
ball went right through his glove, which is such a
Comical.
peculiar play. Because I think that honestly, if that ball doesn't go through the webbing, right? If that
Yeah.
just weird situation doesn't transpire, he makes that play. It's in his
100%.
glove. He makes the throw with a strong arm, and Senga is out of a jam. He doesn't give up. His innings scoreless streak, which was snapped at 11 innings, remains true. And you're talking about a different scenario with Reed
Mhm,
Garrett
mhm.
coming into the seventh inning with a fresh inning instead of coming in with runners on second and third with 2 outs. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
just a weird play. But what did you make of Senga's outing in general? Because again, 102 pitches, Mendoza came out there, and I'm like, all right, he's definitely coming out of the ball game. But Mendoza, this is what I love about Carlos Mendoza, and this is why he's such
Came out
an
with hero.
underrated manager, even still in this league, is that he has a really good feel for his players. Senga was rolling. He got himself out of trouble, and you could tell that Senga really wanted to finish what he started. And Mendoza realized that too. He went out there, gave Senga a quick little breather, asked him, "Are you ready to go for this last batter? This is your last batter. Go get him." And Senga did make a pitch. It should have resulted in an out, and it didn't. But just the awareness, right? And this is the first time that Senga has, I think, thrown 100 plus pitches ever since a career high that he posted in his rookie season in
Yeah.
2023 at 107. I think he did it twice, Gary said.
Mhm.
I like to see that from Carlos Mendoza, who's been playing the safer game with this rotation all in all to begin this season early on, right? And rightfully so. You don't want to extend these guys too much too soon, but I think that this was the appropriate night to do so with Senga. He did. And I wouldn't say it backfired because he should have gotten out of that inning if it wasn't for just a weird play by Vientos with the ball going through his glove.
Yeah, nothing you can do there on that play. I mean, it's not on Vientos. He got to the ball. It was a pretty hard hit ball, too. So it was good on him to get to the ball. And the one thing that I don't worry about with Vientos in the field is his arm. His arm is spectacular. It's the reaction time. It's the range. But he got there, just a freaky play with the ball going through the webbing. And then obviously Reed Garrett comes in and allows the run to score. But Senga looked good tonight. I would love to see him be able to work with less traffic. I mean, he did allow a decent bit of base runners tonight with, I think, 8 in total, if I'm not mistaken. 6 hits, 2 walks, or 7?
I think so, yes, correct.
Yeah,
correct.
6 hits, 2 walks. So with that, it's a lot of traffic to work with. And, if you're not as good as a pitcher, if you don't have it, 8 total base runners. If you don't have it, like I felt like Senga did have it tonight, that's a scary situation where we could be looking at 3-4 runs in total, maybe even more. So it was good to see him work out of those jams, and the stuff was working, especially that Ghost Force. That thing, Ghost Fork, was dancing tonight. And I would just love to see him be able to get some outs with those other pitches, because it feels like when he has to go to other pitches, it's just not there. They're uncompetitive, and he has to rely on the Ghost Fork too much. And, when he throws a flat one, it's just bye-bye. So a lot of positives, some things I would love to see him work on, and I'm still a bit concerned about the velocity. I don't know if you noticed. I think in that 6th inning, I think his fastball did dip down to 90, if I'm not mistaken.
I did not see
the
90. I did not see the 90.
90, 91. They called it a fastball. It could have been a cutter, maybe, but if it was the 4-seamer, it's something that I find a bit weird. If he's trying too hard to take too much off of it just to get it over as a strike, with him, I would worry less about that and just try to focus on missing inside, if anything, because the problem is he misses over the plate with that fastball, or just makes him completely uncompetitive. And he just needs to figure something out with his other pitches aside from the Ghost Fork, because that's where he's run into trouble this year. It's been the overthrowing of the Ghost Fork, where it's basically easily read by the other teams, and then the other pitches are uncompetitive at times. So when he's at his best, his other pitches are working, and the Ghost Fork is his out pitch. And he doesn't have to throw much. He will literally just throw it for the 3rd strike. He'll throw it when he gets the hitters to 2 strikes. But when you have to throw that to be a strike pitch, that's when he runs into big issues. And we saw that a bit tonight. Obviously, he worked out of it.
You just took the words out of my mouth with what I was going to say about Kodai Senga, because, it's a shame. The ERA overall, which doesn't really matter at this point, goes up from 1.16 to 1.22, even though he had just basically a gem in this game. That doesn't matter. I'm more concerned about the process of Kodai Senga. Yes, he's been able to work himself out of jams, but I'm taking a look at the predominant pitches that he throws so far this season. This is exactly what you just said, is exactly what I said in the pregame and I think the postgame of his last outing in Arizona against the Diamondbacks, where he also had 5 walks, a lot of traffic on the bases, but he was able to post a really good game through 6 innings. He is relying on the Ghost Fork a little bit too much, and that's going to come back and bite him at some point this season. I can already tell. In this game, I think it was a career high for him in terms of the usage of the Ghost Fork. Around 40% of his pitches, 41 of his 102 pitches today were the Ghost Fork. And the numbers in general throughout the season on his 4-seam fastball, which actually looked a little bit better in terms of getting some swing and miss, 292, the batting average with opposing pitchers. And with the cutter, 348 opposing hitters batting average on that pitch. So his Ghost Fork is he has to overcompensate with it, which is fine because it's such an elite pitch, right? It's such an elite pitch. But when you have a team like the Pirates who start to lay off of it a little bit, when you have a
Yeah.
team like the Diamondbacks who are laying off of it to induce those 5 walks that they got off of Kodai Senga, that's going to have to be an adjustment that he's going to have to make. Again, a really good outing. The numbers are great. Can't complain too much. I'm not going to complain too much. But this is a future worry that I have with his
Hmm.
outings. I think that if he starts to establish either the cutter or the fastball a little bit more efficiently, he can then use the ghost fork a little bit more. That's still gonna be his primary pitch, don't
Of
get me
course.
wrong, but it's gonna be a lot more supplemental. The fastball is gonna be a
Hmm.
lot more supplemental, rather than what's happening right now. So it's a good point, and it's something that Mets fans should just keep in the back of their minds.
Yeah.
But we're here talking about a win because I know
Yeah.
not many people want to talk about that right now because this is a win at the end of the day.
Yeah. There are two things I want to bring up about it. I actually kind of want to see Senga get to throw in the sinker a bit more, just because it has such a similar profile to that Ghost Fork in terms of the direction it breaks and just what it looks like coming out of the hand, and lean away from the cutter, because the cutter to me just has not been a great pitch this year. I just from my perspective, and I haven't looked into the numbers on the pro stuff of it, or how it looks, the vertical or horizontal break on it. But to me, that doesn't seem like a great pitch, whereas the sinker could be a deceptive one that comes out of the hand looking like a fastball, starts to break like a forkball, but obviously is still, a fastball variation. And then two, I wonder if going forward, Mendoza will shy away from going Garrett after Senga. And the one thing I noticed is I don't think he got a single swing and miss, maybe not even a single swing on that splitter. I feel like that's got to be a lot easier to pick up a splitter out of the hand after watching someone throw what was close to 40, if not over 40 ghost forks tonight, and just be able to pick that up and lay off of it. So, and that's one of Garrett's big pitches, that and the sinker and the sweeper. So I wonder if that's why Garrett ran into a bit of troubles, because some of the pitches looked very competitive, and I'm like, how do these guys lay off of this? This is dancing right around the zone, but they just spit right on it, and they had no intention of swinging. And the only thing that they were swinging at was the fastball, the sinker.
Especially in that first batter that Reed Garrett faced coming into the ball
Yeah.
game. That was and by the way, I got to give a lot of credit. I don't say this often. I got to give a lot of credit to the home plate umpire. I think he called a
Oh
fantastic
yeah,
game
he
for
did.
both sides, and he was very consistent. Some borderline pitches that were definitely balls, he was just
Hmm.
right on top of, and he made sure to not call them strikes. I was very impressed with the performance of the home plate umpire. But Reed Garrett was competitive, especially in that first walk. Let's not forget, he did walk back-to-back hitters, the 8 and 9 hitters, which is typically just something you cannot afford to do, especially in that situation with runners on. But they were competitive pitches. I do agree, and that's what Gary and Ron were saying on the broadcast as well, is that there could be something to seeing the ghost fork all the way up until that point from the Pirates lineup, and then having a lot more I guess ease, right? In terms
Hmm.
of watching that splitter out of Garrett's hand, which is a good splitter, but it's not as
Hmm.
good as the ghost fork from
No.
Kodai Senga, not by and large, and having an easier time picking it up. So I mean, I don't want to make excuses for Reed Garrett because he can't walk those hitters in
No.
general, but I think that his outing, it wasn't as bad to me in terms of the process as it looked on paper with the walks and the run given up that went against Kodai Senga's ERA.
Yeah.
So something to watch out for. I do think that Mendoza can make that adjustment.
Yeah.
Maybe just reversing. I don't want to say putting Kranick into that situation because Kranick has,
He has a problem with runners on.
yeah, he's come into a lot of
He's
situations
yeah.
like that already, and you saw the last couple great outing from him today, very efficient. Great
Very
job
good.
by Max Kranick coming in after Reed Garrett, but you know, recently with the outings, Max Kranick has looked a little bit fatigued, a little bit tired, and the I guess production against him has shown as such. But a really good job by the Mets bullpen all in all. Listen, Ryan Stanek coming in, pumping 99, 100 miles per hour for a couple strikeouts. Just really good stuff. Edwin Diaz, I know he had that scare in the last inning, but really good job to get back-to-back strikeouts as well to end the ball game. It
Yeah.
was really good to see, really impressive. And there is, so the beauty about a win like yesterday and today is that there are still learning processes that the Mets can go through, right? Every team
Mhm.
can go through, even winning these types of ball games. I think one, holding runners on, right? For Edwin Diaz especially, but I think Ryan Stanek, although we didn't see it today, can fall into that category. And a
Mhm.
couple of others, on this Mets staff can fall into that category. Got to be a little bit more competitive with holding
Mhm.
runners on, which has been his kryptonite basically his whole career, but
Yeah.
definitely since he came into this Mets organization, got into this Mets organization. And two, the thing that I talked about in the pregame, the late inning defense. I mean, such just uncharacteristic plays and back-to-back nights for Francisco Lindor. Had all the time in the world against a ground ball from IKF that would have been the second out
Yeah.
of the inning, I believe, in that ninth inning. The conditions were wet. I get it. The ball slipped out of his hand, but that's a play. You're essentially your captain, right?
You
And
gotta make.
a guy that should have multiple gold gloves at shortstop should be making. And yesterday was probably even a worse off play. So I'm not going to
Yesterday
hold it
was
against
worse.
Francisco Lindor, but those plays do matter, and that could have
Mhm.
been the difference between. It was the difference between a save for Huascar Brazaban yesterday and not, and
Mhm.
also a game that could have ended up and resulted in a blown save for Edwin Diaz in this ball
Mhm.
game, but thankfully it wasn't. So those are the two things. All right, listen. First of all, we've been critiquing a lot here, so let's take a step back. Let's take a step back and let's talk about some good things with the Mets. But
Let's
before
get
we
in the
talk about some
positive.
good things, please smash those thumbs up buttons and spam those W's. It's a Mets win, baby. Let's go. Series win, back to
Big
back to
dub. Put it
back
in the
to back.
books.
Put it in the books, baby. Put it in the books. Listen, shout out to the chat too. Hope is in the house. Ray is in the house. Oliver is in the house spamming the W's. I definitely appreciate all the comments. I see you all. Joel, Frank, D, Elvin. I see you all. A lot of other people, Dolo, I had to scroll up. I have to scroll up in this chat because there's so many comments in this chat. Rock, I see you. AC, I see you. Dolph, I see you. Kranich with the W. I did
When
mess that
everyone
up, and I do apologize about that. I did mess that up. Sorry.
everyone killing it
But
in the comments going crazy right now.
comments are going crazy. I love it.
Yeah.
I love when the comment section goes crazy because we got Lynn spamming the W's,
Got
D
everyone.
spamming the W's, Patrick spamming the W's. Mothman was at the game. Hopefully, you enjoyed that. Hopefully, it was electric, even though it was in rainy conditions. All
Toughing it
right,
out.
toughen it out. Ponchos, right? I mean, umbrellas, whatever you got
Warm
to do.
coffee, hot chocolate, something to keep you warm in those wet conditions.
They're a staple at Citi Field too, Zach. You know how it is, especially in these
Oh yeah.
early months, dude. All right, listen. You see his name in the title of the YouTube stream going on right now.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your boy. Let's talk about your boy. The guy that I was quite frankly doubting a lot to begin the season. Had a awesome spring training, started off the season very slow, as did Luis Angel Acuna, was platooning at second base. And then he came alive and then got sent down. After he has come back up, he has done nothing but hit. He has done nothing but show power. And he has done nothing but help the Mets win ball
Mhm.
games with defense and consistent offense. He's hitting the baseball hard consistently. That is, as Elvin likes to say in the chat, Brett the Hitman Baty with another home run, his fifth of the season. Fifth of the season. Awesome. Opposite field, even better. And a go ahead home run in a clutch situation, as per baseball reference and how they
Yeah.
define a clutch situation.
Oh
Brett
yeah.
Baty, this guy. Tell me about him, Zach. Tell me about him.
I just the approach is different, and he's swinging the bat with confidence. He's swinging the bat like he has a plan in mind, not like he's just up there to make hard contact. Because that's what we saw a lot earlier in his career. You know, when he's struggled, he's gone up there just trying to put the barrel to the bat. And yes, you want to obviously barrel the ball up. You want to get a nice launch angle on it, but if you're going up there without a plan and just barreling the ball in mind, you're going to do what Brett Baty did for the first three quarters, 80% of his career, which was just pound the ball into the ground, some worm burners. And now you see He's out there. He's shortening up the swing a little bit. We saw that change in the offseason with this swing, and he's working on driving the ball the other way in the air, and it's just changed his whole outlook. Because I think from the moment he became a top prospect in the minors, we knew he had all the talent to be a special player. I mean, the bat speed is elite, the exit velocity is elite, the defense he's developed into a very good, potentially elite defender at third base. And it's all there. It's just a matter of, can it all come together? And at this moment in time, it is. Hopefully it stays that way, because man, this team is so much better if he can play like this for the rest of the season.
So much better. I talked about in the pregame. I mean, really going forward, the configuration has to be. I mean, Jeff McNeil has been playing
He's earned
decent
a start
baseball.
at second base.
Yeah, it's so like, listen, I think that the configuration has to be Brett Baty third base at this time right now. Brett Baty
Yeah,
third base. Mark Vientos can play, he can DH, get him the at bats. He's heating up with the bat. I like his at bats.
Another hit today.
He smoked the baseball. Another hit today. He smoked the baseball in the gap that got
Yep.
caught by the right fielder because the ball wasn't really carrying, which makes Brett Baty's home run that much more impressive. But Mark Vientos, is figuring it out with the bat. But the defense, there's still a lot left to be desired. I'm not saying he's a terrible defender, but at this point, I'd probably take Brett Baty over there defensively
100%.
over him. And then I take Luis Angel Acuna at second base for the best defensive configuration you can possibly put out there for Carlos Mendoza. And one thing that I did want to mention, not to take anything away from, the Brett Baty discussion, because I am so here for this Brett Baty discussion. I'm so here to be wrong. You know what I mean? I don't really care. You believed in him. It's taken me a while to believe in him, and maybe that's my fault. I feel like it's not, though, because he showed us that there's still a lot left that he has to prove, and he's finally starting to prove it. But the difference between yesterday's ball game defensively late in the ball game versus today, and Mendoza made the adjustment, I was actually surprised that it happened yesterday, was that late in the ball game, Brett Baty got taken out. Tyrone Taylor goes to center field. Jeff McNeil goes to second base, and Luis Angel Acuna goes from second to third base. Brett Baty comes out of the ball game defensively. Today, right? Brett Baty, what does he do? He plays third base. Vientos comes out of the ball game, and Luis Angel Acuna goes to second base. That's what you call good managing, and that's what you call great adjustments by Carlos Mendoza.
And I'm curious to see. Obviously, won't know. I think tomorrow's a 7:00 start as well. Correct?
Yes, if the game happens. Yes,
if it happens. Obviously, weather permitting. I'm curious to see if he'll go to him against the left-hander. I think we've seen it twice now. It was after the game on when was it? Last Saturday. And then obviously tonight, he had massive games. Tonight was the game-winning home run. Last Saturday, we had 2 home runs had driven on all 5 Mets runs, or 4 of the 5 Mets runs, if I'm not mistaken. And you had a lefty going up both the following day, both days. Obviously, Sunday he sat. Tomorrow, if the game is played, I hope Mendoza doesn't sit him, because Brett Baty's bat needs to be in the lineup. And if we truly want to figure out what Brett Baty is, he needs to start playing left-handers. You saw this a lot earlier in Vientos' career, or in Vientos' resurgence last year. He did sit against the righties quite a bit at the beginning, and then he earned that spot. I think this should be the turning point where Baty gets his first shot against the lefty. Hopefully, if the game's played, obviously. So, and then going forward, I think Acuna obviously had that great stretch, and he's hit a little bit of a slump. I think he should definitely continue to see time in the field, time in the starting lineup. But the way McNeil's been playing good. He has over an 830 OPS, if I'm not mistaken, over 800. And he's earned starts at second base and in center field when you want to sit Tyrone Taylor.
Yes, correct. Agree with pretty much everything you just said there. Now Now I'm losing track of what I was going to say. To be honest, I was losing track. First of all, I think that that's something that's really underrated too. And the comments are saying this as well. I
Mhm.
think Ray was kind of making a joke about it. I appreciate all of the commentary, Ray. You keep the chat light and vibrant, and I love it. So does Oliver. When they're making jokes in there, but Mendoza and Rob has also pointed this out constantly, is that there do seem to be some tendencies where the hot hand, quote unquote, is not prioritized, right? The platoon
Yeah.
is as such as it's a platoon. And
Mhm.
so I think that this is a time where Brett Baty is getting into a rhythm. You
Let's not
need to
break that.
keep playing Brett Baty.
Yeah.
You cannot, lefty, righty. I don't care what the matchups say. I don't
Yeah.
care what the analytics say. I don't care. Right. I know that
Yeah.
this is an analytics game at this point in 2025. I understand that and I can respect the analytics. But the feel for the game, the same reason as to why he didn't pull Kodai Senga out of the ball game when he went out there to talk to him for the first time, is the same reason why you play Brett Baty against the lefty tomorrow in Bailey Falter. You
Yeah.
do it. Got to do it.
Agreed.
Um,
The one thing I
and
will
that's just
say
what I'll say.
though,
It's simple. It's simple.
yeah, it's funny that everyone wanted to get on Mendoza about the Starling Marte starting. I guess he was the DH on Sunday, and obviously that bounced Baty from the lineup. And Torrens starting over Alvey on Sunday. They were the reasons the Mets scored that first run and got into an early lead, or I think tied it up early, whatever it was, where Marte got hit by the pitch and Torrens had the RBI triple. And I'm pretty sure Marte had himself a good day. So it's not like Mendoza's making these moves and they're hurting the team. It's just they're making these moves that are potentially stunting someone's growth. And I understand where he's coming from. You see something in the opposing starting pitcher, him and David Stearns, that makes them want to lean towards a different direction, that you want to bat people in favorable matchups or at least even matchups, not negative matchups, especially on someone that their confidence could be easily shaken as someone that's been bounced up and down. So I understand that, but I think at a certain point you need to shake that confidence. You need to be willing to shake that confidence because, well, he's never going to become a true MLB starter if you can't. Well, what it becomes is, yeah, things are going great now, but they're not always going to be going great. How is he going to respond to a slump, to a terrible game, like a 3 strikeout error in the field kind of game? Is he going to come back and is he going to play well the next game? Or is he going to shell up and then go 0 for the next 30? And we're talking about sending him down again. So there's going to be ebbs and flows to this game. And we need to see, we've seen Baty ebb, and it's been ebbs in the sense that he's gotten lucky. We're starting to see him ebb in a way that we're seeing him play well, and it's deserving. The at-bats are good, the swings are good. Everything is pointing to the fact that he's playing well. And now what's going to happen when he starts to struggle? We need to see that soon. And it's going to happen. We don't want it to happen, but it's going to happen. We need to see how he struggles and then responds.
It's happening to Pete Alonso right now, who
Mhm.
is off to a scorching hot start, right? You know what I mean? He takes the 0 for today with 2 strikeouts again. Him and Lindor were just overmatched by Mitch Keller for some odd reason. And it's going to happen. So I definitely agree with you. You need to see how the young guy, especially if you're trying to make a decision on whether he's going to be in this organization long term, you need to see how he's going to respond. So that's a really good point by you. In terms of continuously playing Brett Baty, while he does seem to just have something figured out right now at this swing and just continuously hitting the ball hard. Brett Baty, another multi-hit performance with a solo home run, which ended up being the difference after the Pirates tied it up at 1-1 later in the ball game. Juan Soto, 1 for 2. A stolen base, which is very uncharacteristic for Juan Soto, which actually set up the RBI for Brandon Nimmo in that first inning after he ripped the baseball up the middle that just missed actually hitting Mitch Keller. And thankfully it did, because that baseball was smoked. So 2 walks. I mean, Juan Soto continues his great eye up at the plate. And, Juan Soto is Juan Soto. I mean, he's going to get on base.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter how he does it. He's going to get on base. I haven't taken a look at the overall numbers and what they're at right now in terms of average on base, whatever, OPS, who cares? But he's getting on base and he's given the opportunities. But yeah, Pete Alonso is on a
It's
little bit
close
of a
to 400.
downside.
Yeah, he
Close
is.
to
And
400, right?
yeah, that's Soto. And then, yeah, Alonso's on a little bit of a slump, but It happens. I mean, he had the double last night.
Sure.
No, the RBI single last night. He had the
Yeah.
double the game before on Sunday, if I'm not mistaken. And last night he also had the walk-off sacrifice fly. So he's still getting his knocks. I mean, I'm not too worried about Pete Alonso. It was bound to happen. It's just a matter of when are we going to see him with the next two home run game, and he's going to jump right back. I don't know the numbers. I know Lindor always plays the Yankees well. Does Pete play the Yankees well? Maybe he's saved it up for a big Subway series. I don't know, but
I'm sure he does.
nah, I wouldn't be surprised if Pete just breaks it out soon. I mean, how many games are we talking? 8 games maybe where Pete is not playing well and he's still driving in runs and hitting extra base hits. So I'm not worried about him. My problem with him is he's actually it isn't the swinging of the pitches out of the zone; it's the missing the pitches in the zone. Tonight he had a pitch that he slammed the bat on. I think it was in the bottom of the sixth or seventh. I mean, it was a pitch that he easily could have handled and parked in the seats, but just got under it. There's fastballs up in the zone where he's never been great at hitting the up fastball, but this year and lately he's been getting better of at least getting a nice contact with it to be able to drive it into the outfield for a single, work it the other way, or being able to put it into a gap and finding some open space and getting a double out of it. Right now, he's just swinging under them. So I think it's about time before he starts to find the barrel meeting those pitches again, and he'll start hitting some more home runs, and the average will jump back up again, or level out around here, because I don't think we all thought he was going to bat around 350 all year. But
Definitely not.
but if he can stick in the high twos, low threes, I mean, I think we'll take that and then some.
Well, listen, the Pittsburgh Pirates look like the New York Mets offense, with the over 13th runners in scoring position, and the Mets went 1 for 3 with runners in scoring position in this ball game. But that doesn't take away from the fact that the Mets still, in general, have struggled with runners in scoring position. But you know who hasn't? You know who hasn't? It has been Pete Alonso. This is a graphic directly from the SNY broadcast. Season with runners in scoring position for Pete. He's hitting 375, 4 home runs, and 25 RBIs. That's exactly what you want in a contract year. Teams are taking notice. I'm sure the Mets front office is taking notice. And us Mets fans are taking notice, is that when Pete Alonso comes up with runners on, so far in general, even though he's hit a little bit of a wall, and I say a little bit because that's all it's been, let's not exaggerate here, he has gotten the job done. And if you take a look at this early production compared to the runners in scoring position production, by and large, all season last season, outside of the playoffs where he finally turned it on, it's night and day different. So this guy has been fantastic for the New York Mets, and that is probably an understatement right now. An understatement.
No, yeah. I mean, he's the reason we are where we are. I mean, obviously, Soto, he's not playing amazingly, but he is still contributing here and there. Lindor's been great for us. And then Nimmo has a lot of RBIs, a lot in bunches, but he's been good for us. And then outside of them, we haven't had someone come up with the big hits, and it's been basically all Pete Alonso and Lindor at this point. And it's just a matter of time when the other guys start contributing like that, because I doubt this lasts this long. I mean, I think you'll see Brett Baty, if he continues to hit like this, he'll be moved up in the order and have opportunities to come up big for the Mets. Obviously he did tonight at the bottom of the order. He did past out against the Cubs, and it's just a matter of who's going to be that other guy. I think we all know Soto is going to be that guy. I think Nimmo's proving to be that guy with what turned out to be a key 2-out RBI in that first inning. Part of the reason, half of the reason we won today's game, half of the reason we did. And then I think Vientos, we see him turning it on. It's a matter of time before he starts to really hit some big home runs. Just the runners in scoring position needs to get better. And then who else? Who's going to be behind them? Because obviously we're seeing 2/4 of that struggle right now. 3/4 of it, 3/5 of it struggle right now. It's a matter of who else can produce at the bottom of the order, or I guess in that middle bottom of the order, because we don't really have that right now. We don't have that big run producer down there.
And the one thing, I'm not going to make a big, fuss, not fuss. There's nothing to make a fuss about. I mean, if the guy needs it, he needs it. But really interesting, the comment here from Dolo, which I also noticed. And even before the broadcast started to talk about it, Reed Garrett wearing glasses, some rec specs out there today. That's crazy. That's
I
interesting.
saw
First
that.
time we've ever seen that. Interesting.
I,
Huh.
I I saw it and I was very confused. I was like, has he always wore those? Because I haven't noticed that.
I've never seen it. And sure
Yeah,
enough, I think this is his first time wearing it. So, again, not a big deal. I thought that was just kind of
yeah,
like an interesting kind of point there.
yeah.
But this guy, exactly what you this is the last thing that I want to talk about in this post game. Are you concerned about Alvarez? Because he, in an ideal scenario, especially with Terens and not understanding and not knowing what his
Yeah.
situation is right now, I'm sure he's going to be fine. I guess the team said he's already feeling better. Um, you know, Alvarez, what is he? He was coming into the ball game hitting 298, but some of the at bats that he's had have left a lot to be desired. The numbers overall don't look bad. This is a particular stat right here that you don't like to see with the swing and miss from Francisco Alvarez.
The
Are you
38.6 whiff percentage.
are you concerned about Alvarez? Is I guess my question.
Yes and no. I'm not concerned because you've seen at points this year him take the approach to work the ball the other way and just lighten up on the swing. But then at times you've seen him just kind of revert back to his norm, and that's over swinging. And I understand he's an aggressive guy. He's someone with a big bat, a lot of bat speed. He can really hit the ball with some authority. So I'm fine with those early favorable counts, taking those big cuts because that's just going to be part of his game. I don't think we can stop him from doing that. I think if we try to, it's just going to work against us. What we need to do is instill, Eric Chavez and Jeremy Barnes need to instill in him that with two strikes, you need to shorten up. You need to shorten up. I mean, his swing has shortened up. I don't know if anyone's noticed that the stance is different. He's actually kind of closed off his stance a little bit, and the bat isn't leaning back on his shoulder. It's more upright. So it's easier for him to get back into position instead of here, where it's just kind of resting down on his shoulder and then he needs to come back up. It's already kind of in position where it is. So he's able to get the barrel out to the ball a little bit quicker. So that's part of it. And I think he needs to take a little bit from Juan Soto, where he literally shortens up on the bat and then widens his stance, which gives him the ability to drive the ball the other way. And with his already, higher bat speed, he should be able to still get some hit the ball fairly hard, even with this abbreviated-esque swing. So it's just a matter of instilling this in him. And he's still so young. 23, 20. I think he just turned 24. So I am worried because you've seen him just continually revert back to this norm, but it's also he's still so young, and you've seen the ability to produce when he does shorten up and try to work the other way. So it's a mixed bag for me. I'm a big out.
The bigger concern for me is why we just spent all this time praising Brett Baty, right? But we can all objectively agree that he hasn't developed the way he should have developed in his first couple of seasons, right? With the production,
Yeah.
obviously injuries play a role, etc. But what are the Mets going to do differently? And a lot of people, I'm not gonna sabotage this post game by talking about the development
Negative, yeah.
between Jeremy Barnes and Eric Chavez. This is not the time to do that, right?
No.
This is not the time to do that. I trust me. I've said it
We'll have
before.
plenty of time to talk about that.
We'll pull up plenty of time to talk about it. I'll say it again. We'll talk about it. You're not necessarily wrong, but I'm talking about the overall scope of why Brett Baty and Francisco Alvarez, two just very highly regarded prospects coming up into this organization, have looked like this, very inconsistent, and have not lived up, quote unquote, to expectations thus far in their careers.
Mhm.
Uh, that's an organizational question. Right? That's an
Agreed.
organizational question. Vientos, on the other hand, you can make the opposite case for coming onto the scene last season, etc. I don't know. I'm gonna have to actually sleep on that, to be honest with you, because I haven't
It's a
really fully.
mixed bag.
I've been too busy watching Mets wins, 28 and
Yeah.
15. It's a mixed bag. It's too much variability. But let's just say that in this fan base, from what I've seen, Barnes and Chavez don't really have the biggest fan base within this fan base.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's come from Jeremy Barnes too. I mean, I think was Eric Chavez's first year 2022 with Buck, and from he had a great year there. The Mets were playing well, and then I think Jeremy Barnes was hired as a co-hitting coach. I don't know. It's a bizarre scenario, and hey, I honestly at this point just fire them both and hire JD Martinez. He liked it so much here last year.
Oh, seriously.
I mean,
Seriously. All
he's the
right.
reason Mark Vientos was playing as well as he was. But enough of that. Enough of that.
Listen, this is hilarious. So because Mothman made me laugh to no end here, I think that wins comment of the day. Mothman speaking or trying to speak Trout
I
to the
saw that.
Mets into existence. So I'll give you that, attention that you wanted there. So there's that.
Proud
You
for
can be the leader of that movement. I'm not sure if I'm bought into that. I mean, I think Trout's having a decent year, right? I think
he's
he's having an
batting
okay year.
179.
Oh, so he's not.
I'm pretty sure he's injured. Yeah, he hasn't played since April 30th. So
Okay, so then let's forget about
he
that.
has 8
But the
home
guy,
runs.
that's because he got off to a good power surge, and that's what I was like, okay, maybe he's having a good season, but I guess he's kind of tapered off, and the injury concern is definitely always there with Mike Trout. That's no shocker. Another guy that is a former Met, by the way, talking about the Cubs, Pete Crow Armstrong. Javi Baez is hitting like over
Oh, yeah.
310 this season so far. Where is he coming? Like coming out of nowhere. Okay, this made me chuckle.
Yeah.
This made me chuckle. Mothman, you win today in the chat because believe it or not, I do read everybody's chat. Like
Yeah.
I do. I see all the comments pouring in. Mothman was at the game, and Mothman saw
I
Vientos and
saw
Baty
that.
having a fight in the clubhouse. There was a fight between Brett Baty and Mark Vientos in the clubhouse, and
Did you see the next comment?
what was said was both of them saying to each other that they are elite, and they were screaming, "I am him" over. I love that. That's awesome. No, there was actually no real fight. Please don't take that seriously. Listen, yeah, I don't really have anything else to say. I'm happy with the series win. I'm not really happy in the fashion of which the Mets have won these two games, but I'm not in
Yeah.
the position here to complain about it. I mean, you take the wins when you can get them, especially in the 162, game season. And that's that. And we're going to be talking about hopefully a game being played tomorrow. We're going to be talking about the Knicks playing tomorrow as well. And hopefully if the game is on as scheduled with the weather conditions, then hopefully we're talking about a sweep. And I think the Mets are really in a good position to do so with Clay
Yeah.
Holmes really coming into form. Clay Holmes, I was a little bit skeptical on with his first couple of outings and the lack of length and the inefficiency, etc. But he's really starting to settle into his own as a starter against Bailey Falter. That's a pitching matchup that I am taking, the Mets having the advantage in all day long. All day long. So final
Yeah.
thoughts, Zach, before we round things out. And yeah, that's it. We're gonna round things out and everybody have a good night. But final thoughts, Zach.
Just hope that we're saving all these runs for the Subway Series, which should be high scoring, high octane, and that tomorrow I just want to see Clay Holmes come out and have another big start. I don't know how many of you guys, if any of you guys saw the preseason show I did with Matt Sunny Days, another guys from Sunny Days. I actually said Clay Holmes would finish in the Cy Young votes in the top 10. And I don't know. It's kind of looking like he should be there right now. So the stuff's great. I want to see another good outing for him. And let's get the offense moving a little bit before this series wraps up and we head into a battle in the Bronx.
Yeah, you said that about Clay Holmes. I know that Stan hasn't been here actually in a little bit, so shout out to Stan if you watch this back. But Stan was also advocating for Clay Holmes in that Cy Young conversation as well. So there are a lot of believers, especially before the season even started, with Clay Holmes. And I was a believer. I just wasn't, in the line of thinking of, oh, okay, he's going to be some Cy Young candidate, even though he did have a really impressive spring training. But he
Yeah.
is getting the job done through and through. Yeah, offense. I think that's the biggest thing is more consistency, more firepower, right? We want to see more firepower from this offense that has the personnel to have a lot of firepower. But other than that, let's go Mets. Great series win. 3 series wins in a row. That's the name of the game. And you set yourself up with the series win to sweep a series tomorrow against a team that you should be sweeping, because guess what? Guess what? After tomorrow, you have an off day. Subway Series kicks up, right? Then you got Boston. Then you got the Dodgers. A very tough 9-game stretch. And I'm not saying that, we're fearing any of these opponents. I think, I'm very confident that Subway Series with Juan Soto, playing his former team is going to be electric. It's going to be awesome. I'm so here for it. But I'd like to see, before the Subway Series kicks off, I'd like to see our New York Knicks punch their ticket into the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time in over 2 decades. So let's get the job done.
Yes.
Orange and blue skies.
Orange
Mets
and blue
and
skies
Knicks.
tomorrow.
Orange and blue skies, baby. Let's go. All right. I appreciate you all. George is saying hydrate and elevate. Absolutely. That's what the Mets offense should do tomorrow.
Oh,
I
yeah.
appreciate it. This was the Mets post-game show with myself, CP, and Zach. As always, please do smash those thumbs up buttons. If you forgot, it's okay. I'll forgive you. Hit the thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel for more Mets content and
Yes.
streams and polls and everything else in between. Subscribe to the Sunny Days Media 516 YouTube channel. You can find Zach and a lot of other guys talking hockey, all sports, baseball, Mets in particular as well.
Yeah.
Over on that channel. The link's going to be in the description. So the first thing you need to do, right, before going to another stream or going to bed, is go down in the description, subscribe to their channel, and help them out and get them to their next subscriber goal. So I appreciate it. Thank you as always. Thank you to you, Zach, also for taking your time out. And we do
Of course,
have a little
thank
bit of
you.
a special shows planned too,
Oh,
because
yeah.
we're going to have, I think, a show that's going to have myself, you, Rob, and Talking Mets with Hayden on a screen.
Nice.
All 4 of us, a jam-packed show. So stay tuned for that on Thursday. All right, enough talking out of me. Let's go Mets. Great win. See you later. Peace.
Let's go, Mets.